So the first sport phrasal verb is swell up. Your ankle might swell up if you twist it. So the verb is swell, and in the past it is swelled and swollen. So if your ankle swells up, it increases in size due to injury. Also, when I eat peanuts, because I'm allergic, my lips will swell up. They will become inflamed. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of British English Pod with me, Lewis, and this week it's time to speak about my favourite topic, or at least one of my favourite topics, and I'm aware that a lot of people aren't into sport, so if you are one of these people and you've already clicked that you're going to listen to this podcast, well, thank you. And I'm sure you'll enjoy it anyway. You'll find it useful. You'll learn some phrasal verbs, that is for sure. And, well, you can sit back, relax, and listen to me talking rubbish. Talking about lots of different things. But let's get started by just reminding you and telling you that, of course, you can sign up to my British English Immersion Club for free for 7 days if you'd like to try my classes before deciding if you want to actually pay for them. So there is a link in the description, and I hope to see you in class soon, whether that's for group classes or private classes. Any questions, you can send me a message on Instagram or you can send me an email, which is lewis@englishwithlewis.com. Enough about that. Let's get started. And I'm not going to mess around at all. I'm going to get straight to the point. I'm going to cut to the chase and begin speaking about sport. And today I'm going to use a PowerPoint during the entirety of this podcast. And this PowerPoint is the usual ones that I will use in class when I'm teaching my students. And I'd like you to let me know in the comments what you do. The first question, what do you do to stay fit? How do you stay in shape? I'm curious. Do you go running? Do you go cycling? Do you just walk a lot? Are you more into going to the gym? How do you stay fit? How do you stay in shape? In my case, it depends, because I have periods of time when I really want to build muscle and bulk up and get stronger, but this isn't usually the majority of the time, because most of the time I can't be bothered going to the gym because sometimes it's too far away from my house, other times it's too expensive, and some people don't like the gym because it can be quite loud. It can be busy, like everybody's packed and you have to wait for a machine if you want to, I don't know, push on a bench press or if you want to pull with a lat pull down. And many people don't have patience. I, myself, don't really have patience for this either. So I recently quit the gym, which I think I mentioned on a previous podcast, and now I'm trying to get back into running. And I haven't signed up for a particular race or half marathon or marathon, but I've started running almost every day during the week. At the weekend, I always take time off to just chill as much as possible. But this week, for example, I've been for 3 runs on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Today's Thursday. I don't think I'm going to go for a run, but I'll probably go for a walk. So how I usually stay fit is by running or walking. Because I think it's cool and necessary to lift weights, but I don't really do it that often because I get bored of it. That's me. That's the scenario. But the second question, which sports did you used to do when you were younger? Well, when I was younger, the main sports I used to do were football. Football has always been my favorite sport. As I've mentioned previously, I'm a big footy fan, and I've always loved playing football. And apart from that, I used to play a little bit of cricket with my friends, but I never really took it too seriously. And I also played rugby at school because my school kind of promoted rugby a little bit more than football, perhaps because the values are different. It's more of a gentleman's game, or at least that's what they say. And yeah, I'd say those are the three main sports that I used to practice: football, cricket, and rugby. And of course, how could I forget? Cycling, riding my bike. I used to go cycling with my dad, and my dad is like semi-professional when it comes to cycling. He still competes nowadays, and he's like 65. I don't actually remember how old he is, but I think he's 65, or maybe he's 66. But either way, he's in great shape for the age he has, and he's in great shape in general, to be honest. He's definitely faster than me when it comes to cycling, and I think he has better stamina than me as well. You know, he has better endurance than I do. And one other sport that I used to do when I was a child was skateboarding. I had a period of my time where I really enjoyed skateboarding with my friends. So we'd get our skateboards, we'd skate around the town, we'd knock on our friends' doors, and during that time, we'd all learn some basic tricks. Maybe when we went to a skate park where you've got different things like, what's it called? You know, a ramp, and you'd have these bars as well. So I managed to learn how to ollie, you know, like to jump on a skateboard. And I also just about learned how to kickflip and heel flip, which is when the skateboard kind of quickly flips or turns either to the right or to the left. So this is one other sport that I was into when I was growing up. Now let's move on to the third question, which is, have you ever been a member of a team? Have you ever been a member of a team? And yeah, I was a member of an amazing football club called Bingley Juniors. Bingley! 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 And Bingley is my hometown, which you might have seen or heard me speaking about Bingley. And it's quite a small hometown with, 20,000 inhabitants, perhaps more nowadays. And we played in black and red. So our kit, our shirt, shorts, and socks was in stripes, and it was red and black. Kind of like Bournemouth at the moment. If you like football, you'll know in the Premier League there is a team called Bournemouth, and they're a really small club, but they are overachieving at the moment, and they're doing really well in the Premier League. But it's a small stadium of only 10,000 capacity, and they play in red and black. It looks a bit ugly, to be honest. But when I was playing with Bingley Juniors, I played in the centre of midfield. I was a centre mid, a central midfielder, partly because I had, like my dad, very good stamina, very good endurance. So I could continue running up and down the pitch. I could help out in defense, and I could contribute in attack as well. And I tried to make other players play better by tackling, receiving the ball, passing the ball, sometimes crossing the ball. But while being maybe above average, I was never amazing. I never played for any professional teams. I wish I could have played for my club, Leeds United. But unfortunately, I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough to play for Leeds. It's a shame, but it is what it is. Number 4. If you were to take up a completely new sport now, which would it be? Which sport would I take up? And here, the phrasal verb take up means to begin, to start. If you take up a sport, it means that you start playing it, you start doing it. And I think you can probably guess this. If you've seen the thumbnail of this video, you'll see me posing with a paddle racket. And perhaps it's not a completely new sport, because I have played maybe 5 or 6 times in my life, so much so that I bought the racket because I wanted to play a little bit more. But to be honest, I haven't played for a couple of months now. It's always a bit difficult to organize, to find the free time, but I enjoy playing paddle, and I do want to continue playing. So hopefully I'll get round to playing in the near future, because I think it's a cool thing to do. It's intense, but not too intense. Like, you're not absolutely sweating buckets when you're playing. So I'd like to, develop my interest and skills for paddle, because I can get by, I can do the basics, but I'm not great. And if not paddle, if I had to choose a completely new sport, I reckon I would go for, what would I go for? It's difficult to choose because I've tried quite a lot of sports. That reminds me, in fact. When I was a child, I also tried kayaking. Like canoeing, where you have a boat that floats in a river usually. You'll strap yourself in wearing a wetsuit, because of course, if your boat capsizes, then it's going to be freezing. It's going to be so cold and you're going to be shivering as a result. But yeah, you have a paddle, an oar, and you have to turn and guide your way through the river and through sometimes different rapids. So that's something I didn't mention. But yeah, I also used to do kayaking, but only for a couple of years. But anyway, returning to the question, a completely new sport. To be honest, I can't think of any. I think I've tried my hand at most sports that I would be interested in. I've tried my hand at most sports. If you try your hand at something, it means that basically you try something. You test something to see if you like it or to see if you're good at it. So yeah, I've tried my hand at a few sports, to be honest. Most sports, which is why a completely new one, I'm racking my brain, but I can't think of any. So let's move on to number 5. When was the last time you attended a professional sports match? Ooh, let me think, because it's been quite a while. This calendar year, I don't think I have, I don't think I've been to a professional sports match. I went to see my mate play here in Brussels a few weeks ago because he plays for a local Sunday league team, which is a decent level, but they're not professional. But the last time I attended a professional sports match would have been when I went to Ellen Road. Here you can see it in my background, which is the stadium of Leeds United. And I'm quite lucky in some ways because my dad, I may have mentioned, is a photographer, and now he's semi-retired and he works as a freelancer taking photos. But previously, he used to work for the local newspaper, which was called the Yorkshire Post. And the vast majority of the jobs that he would go to would be sports matches. So he'd go to watch the local cricket, rugby, and mainly football. So he had contacts. He had contacts in football and in particular at Leeds United. So during the last 5 or 10 years, I've been to probably 1 or 2 Leeds matches per season. And the last one I went to was, I think, just around Christmas last year. And my dad can often get me in for free. He can, ask for a favor and say, hey, my son is back home for a few weeks. Is it all right if he comes and joins in the press room? And most of the time they say, yeah, sure, no problem. So then they give me some credentials. They give me like a card almost, or a lanyard, which says that I work in the press, like I'm a journalist. So before the match, I will enter the stadium. I'll say hello to all of these local journalists, sometimes national journalists or international journalists. And if I'm honest, I'm often twiddling my thumbs. I'm twiddling my thumbs. This means that I'm kind of a bit awkward and a bit uncomfortable because I don't know what to do with myself. Because I'm there waiting for the match to begin, sitting around, playing on my phone, while you've got all of these other journalists preparing to take photos, write match reports. You've got like TV cameras, radio stations, and all of that stuff. And they're getting ready because they're working. And I'm not working. So I'm twiddling my thumbs. But anyway, I'm very grateful because that means that then I can go and sit next to different journalists with a fantastic view of the match. Yes, maybe the downside is that I can't really get involved with the atmosphere because I'm not next to other fans who are singing and shouting and clapping and celebrating and swearing when things go wrong. But it's free and I get a privileged view of the match. And it's cool because I can see like famous journalists at the same time, or famous ex-players who now work as journalists. So it's a nice little perk of my dad's job. And next time I go home, I'm going to see if I can go to another Leeds United match. Fingers crossed I'm able to do it, and fingers crossed we win whatever match it is. And what about you? What is the last professional sports match you went to? It doesn't have to be football. It could be anything. It could be any sport you want. Let me know in the comments. And finally, number 6. Do you normally keep track of how many steps you do? Like, do you keep a record of how many steps you do? Well, I usually do, to be honest. Of course, I use my phone most of the time. And if you have an iPhone, but I think if you have most phones in general, it will keep a record of how many kilometers you do per day and how many steps you do per day. And it is said that everybody should do 10,000 steps per day. Whether this is true, I don't know. But I do try to do 10,000 steps every day, or even more. And I've mentioned before that I like to go out for walks, partly because I work remotely, I work at home, and my job isn't very physically demanding because most of the time I'm sat here in my corner, or I'm recording videos, or I'm sitting on the sofa. So that's why I make sure that between little breaks, I'll go for a run or I'll go for a walk. And most of the time, I'll check at the end of the day or end of the week to see if I'm on track, to see if I'm going in the right direction with getting my 10,000 steps per day. Because walking is underrated. People don't realize how healthy walking is and how useful it is to, stay slim and avoid getting fat. So yeah, I do keep track of my steps most of the time. Now, from there, I did promise that we'd go over some phrasal verbs. And here we have 12 different phrasal verbs related to sport in one way or another. And I'm going to review them and, of course, tell you what they mean, give you some examples, and then we'll do a little gap fill activity. Maybe, if I feel like it. So the first sport phrasal verb is swell up. Your ankle might swell up if you twist it. So the verb is swell, and in the past it is swelled and swollen. So if your ankle swells up, it increases in size due to injury. Also, when I eat peanuts, because I'm allergic, my lips will swell up. They will become inflamed. The next phrasal verb is to work out, which I reckon most of you will be familiar with, because working out is basically just doing exercise, training. When you go to the gym, you work out. If you go for a run, you work out. If you do home exercises, you work out. So it's just another way to say do exercise, working out. After that, we have burn off. And I go running because I want to burn off calories. To be honest, burn off and burn mean the same thing. You can say, I want to burn calories, or I want to burn off calories. Both of them are perfectly correct, so it's up to you which one you want to use. Now, the next one is fall behind, and this is particularly common when speaking about races. Let's talk about the Formula One. If you have Max Verstappen leading the race and Lando Norris is right behind him, and there's only a millisecond between both of them, but then Lando Norris's engine stops working. So Lando falls behind. He loses ground in a race. And, well, Max Verstappen would keep going, and the distance between first and second would get bigger and bigger and bigger. Lando would be falling behind. The fifth phrasal verb is to slim down. And right now I feel like I'm a bit chubby. I'm a bit fat, which is why I'm trying to slim down. Slimming down just means to become slimmer, to lose weight, basically. I'm trying to slim down. Next one, take up. I mentioned this right at the beginning of the podcast, and it was about a sport that I would like to take up. I said I wanted to take up paddle. And take up is to start a new hobby or a new sport. I want to take up paddle. Cool. Now we're halfway there. How's it going? All clear? I hope so. Let's find out. And let's continue with number 7. It is try out for. And this is basically to audition for. So maybe if you think you're good at a sport, a team sport maybe, but you're not sure if you're good enough to play for the team or to represent the team. So often you'll need to try out for the team. You'll need to do an audition. So try out for is to test your ability at an audition to see if you are good enough to play for the team. And then we have a boxing phrasal verb, which I'm sure you're familiar with because it is KO. It is to hit someone and make them unconscious. Let's say that somebody tried to attack me and steal my phone in the street. Well, I turned around and I said, "Hey, give me my phone back." And if they don't give me my phone back, I will knock them out. It's a joke. I'm actually really, really soft. I wouldn't hurt a fly. But if I knock them out, maybe I punch them or I kick them and they pass out. More on that in a minute. But next we have catch up, which is kind of like the opposite of fall behind. So let's go back to the F1 story. Again, we had Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. They're two famous F1 drivers. And Lando Norris's engine had stopped working, so he fell behind. He was further away from first in Max Verstappen. But let's imagine that then Max starts going slower. He starts to slow down. And Lando's engine miraculously becomes fixed. So then Lando can speed up and catch up to Max Verstappen. It is to gain ground or to reach someone else in a race. He caught up to him. Now we have number 10. It is pass out. If you or anyone else passes out, you faint. To pass out is to faint, which is to lose consciousness. Maybe you didn't have any breakfast and then you do intense exercise and you feel a bit lightheaded. After that, you might pass out. You might faint. Okay, final two. Number 11 is bulk up. And this is to become more muscly. To become musclier. If you are bulking, you are eating a lot, having a lot of calories, and doing heavy weightlifting. That way, you are going to bulk up. You're going to gain muscle. Then, number 12, the last one. It is join in, which is simple. It just means to participate. Let's imagine we're playing cards, and I say, "Hey, do you want to join in? Like, do you want to play with us? Do you want to participate? Do you want to enter the game?" So, there we have it. 12 different phrasal verbs related to sport. Let me know if any of these are new or if you already knew them, because some of them are tricky, but not all of them, in my opinion. For example, workout, I don't think is that hard. Personally, anyway, but maybe you disagree. Let's see. And let's keep having a chat. And we might go over these phrasal verbs later, but for now, let's continue. And I don't want to drag this podcast on too long because, recent podcasts have been almost an hour long. and maybe it's too long. I'm not sure. On that note, let me know. How long do you think these podcasts should be? Do you prefer them to be like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or closer to an hour? It's up to you. Let me know in the comments, and I will then, maybe, we'll see, respond to your feedback. And let's keep going. Number 1, are you more keen on individual sports or team sports? On the one hand, I think that team sports are much more fun and they're much more enjoyable to watch. They're more, I don't know, passionate perhaps, and there's more going on. But on the other hand, individual sports are easier to do because you don't need to ring anybody up, you don't need to message anybody, so you can go out for a run whenever you want. You can go to the gym whenever you want. You can go cycling whenever you want. You can go surfing whenever you want. You can do all of these individual sports based on your own schedule. So you don't have to wait for anyone or find a slot in your agenda in order to practice these sports. So to watch, I'm more keen on team sports, but I think to do, I'm more keen on individual sports. The second question, how can sports or exercise be good for the mind? Ooh, I like this question. Well, I don't think they're just good for the mind. I would go a step further. And I'd argue that sport and exercise is essential for the mind. It's absolutely crucial for the mind. It's so influential. We cannot understate the importance of exercise and sport because when people do exercise, you release endorphins, these chemicals that make you feel happy and satisfied. And it's so beneficial for your health, not only in a physical way, but also mentally. Because if you're stressed out and you do sport, you really release this stress. If you're really, really busy and you make time for sport, your performance will be better at work because you can think more clearly. And general happiness. At least in my case, if I don't get out and move and do things, I get a bit sad and depressed. Of course, I'm not depressed, and perhaps that's a bit of an exaggeration. But if the weather is really, really grim and depressing, then I don't really want to go out and do anything. And at the end of the day, I don't feel good about myself. Whereas if I make the decision and make the effort to do sport regardless, at the end of the day, I feel so much calmer and better and happier. So I think everybody needs to make time to do some kind of exercise. Not necessarily sport, and it could just be going for a walk, something that simple. But yeah, I think it is absolutely 100% vital. I hope that was clear enough. Number 3, would you say that some sports can be too violent? Yeah, for sure. I'm not one of these people who's really into MMA, mixed martial arts, like wrestling, karate, judo, all of these things which I think are great to learn and practice. I wish I knew karate, judo, MMA, but it's not my bag. It's not my thing, to be honest. And I think some of them are hard to watch. Like, I've got a few mates who will meet up and watch UFC matches, and I just don't get it. I just don't understand how that's enjoyable. I don't comprehend how you can enjoy seeing someone tapping out because they're wheezing and struggling for air because they're being choked in the moment. Or if you see someone breaking a bone, ugh, it sends shivers down my spine. So I think MMA, UFC, they're too violent for me. Other people love it. Fair enough. You do you. Each to their own. Live and let live. But no, for me, there are definitely some sports that are just too violent. I'm that way, you know? I'm a bit sensitive, I suppose. Now, the fourth question. Winning doesn't matter. It's taking part that counts. What do you reckon? What do you think? To be honest, when I played for Bingley Juniors, my coach and my parents used to tell me this. Like, Lewis, don't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. A loss, it's not important, you know? It's fine. Because we weren't the best, and sometimes we'd lose matches, other times we'd draw matches, and other times we'd win. But to cheer me up when I was a bit down, they'd say, Lewis, you played really well. You had a good time. That's all that matters, you know? It's taking part that counts. Winning isn't important. And I think when you're a young child, this is true. But as you become a teenager, you start to take things a little bit more seriously. And if you are in a league, you want to do well. You want to win. You want to get the 3 points. So you can grow and learn a lot from losing. That's for sure. But if you can win, it's always better. I'm a winner. So yeah, I partially agree, but only really if you're there to, you know, spend time with friends, have a laugh. Or if you're really young, then absolutely, winning doesn't matter at all. Just, you know, amuse yourself, enjoy yourself, have fun. Now, number 5, should children play more sports at school? I don't know whether it's the school's role, to be honest. Everybody has PE, you know, physical education, and I think this should be a thing in every school. And I think usually you have PE maybe twice a week, something like that, and then you'll have extracurricular activities after school. So I don't think we need to do more sport at school. I think teachers already have enough on their plate, and it can be a bit of a hassle for parents if you got to send a change of clothes every day to do sport. And I think sport should be more of an optional thing, which is encouraged that kids would do after class if they enjoy it. So I'd say the balance is probably about right at the moment. And number 6, and I'll finish with this question. It is, what do you think life would be like as a professional athlete? What do you think life would be like as a professional athlete? Well, there would be so much pressure, that's for sure. I think it's a very, very high pressure environment. And you wouldn't be able to go on holiday when you want to go on holiday. There'd be a lot of commitments you'd need to make. You'd have to eat well all the time. You'd have to sleep well all the time. And you can't do a lot of things that many people your age would be doing. So footballers right now, most of them become very famous when they're in their early 20s, sometimes younger. And at this time, you're just a kid. You're a baby. So you have so much pressure on your shoulders and so much media exposure. The press are always talking about you. They're giving opinions on you. Maybe they're criticizing you. So I think it is a hard job, but, and there is a big but, you're paid so well. You are a millionaire, sometimes a billionaire when you are a professional athlete, at least in football. There are other sports where you don't get quite as much money, but you don't get as much exposure either. So it's less pressure. It's less stressful, maybe. But being an athlete is by no means an easy thing to do. And you have to have a very strong personality, a winning personality. But who am I kidding? If I could be a professional footballer, I would jump at the opportunity as quickly as possible, and I would absolutely love to be a professional footballer. Whether I'd manage the stress well, and these pressure moments where everything is on the line, everything is at stake, I don't know. But I would love to be a footballer playing for Leeds United and scoring the goal in the final of the Champions League. Or maybe even scoring a goal for England in the final of the World Cup. That would be literally a dream come true. And on that note, I hope that England win the World Cup during my lifetime. I hope it is next summer. I'm skeptical. I don't think it's going to happen because usually England, we don't play well when it matters. We'll get to semi-finals, quarterfinals, recently finals as well. But when it really matters, we fall apart and we can't handle the pressure. What a shame. But anyway, that'll do for this week's podcast, all related to sport. I hope you enjoyed it, and if so, please leave a like, leave a comment, leave a 5-star review on Spotify if you are listening over there. And if you are interested in joining my classes, you can join my monthly subscription of group classes with a 7-day trial, or you can book private classes. So I hope to see you in class soon, and if not, I hope you continue to enjoy this podcast and the rest of my content. Thank you, everybody. See you next time, and goodbye. Ciao, ciao.